and prior to that I was at SamsungNEXT, where I used to head AI investments. My sole focus here is to invest in AI based companies, infrastructure and gaming as well. And I think I would say that some of it comes from my journey from Apple, where I was for around 8 years. And I focused a lot on AI in general, along with infrastructure and backend. So I saw like how hard it is for individual contributors and engineers to start their journey as a tech entrepreneur. And I felt like for VCs, it's much harder to recognize those technical breakthroughs, because they do not understand sometimes the nitty-gritty complexities involved. So I felt like there was a bridge needed between the technical entrepreneurs as well as the VCs, and I think I served that. And I understand the business side and the investment side, and I understand the tech side as well. So I think I'm very excited to be here and explore the startup scene here in Dubai. And thank you so much to Gitex and Expand North Star for the invitation.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so definitely there is a lot of hype around AI, but I would say AI is built on a very solid foundation, and AI didn't start just last year. It has been around for over 20 or 30 decades. The first time it was coined was around 1950s, where people started this AI system as basic knowledge based system, and it started as neurosymbolic system, and then it pivoted and kind of made its way to where we are. And nowadays we talk about knowledge graph, we talk about retrieval augmentation, RAG techniques, we also talk about federated learning. Now the models have come and we are at a very next stage of AI. So I think I wouldn't say that it's a buzz. I think from here onwards we are just going to make more and more progress as we go. Sure. So I cannot share some of the internal things or my thesis explicitly, but I can share some of the investments that I have done which were very interesting. So one company I'm very proud of investing is Dynamo FL. Now these guys, they are from one of the founders from India, they are from MIT. So they did their PhD in federated learning, which is one of the fields in privacy for AI, and they kind of came out of YC and they pivoted basically their career into from being technical researchers into entrepreneurs, and they use their thesis to create a platform which will enable people to train their AI models on their users' data individually without sharing the data with the company itself. So it's a very safe way of training these LLMs that we have coined and we have seen. So I think anything which has to do with privacy, safe AI, trustworthy AI is very interesting to me. I'm really looking forward to those projects and forward to meeting those kind of founders here. And apart from that, I think LLM space in general is kind of exploding, but at the same time nobody is trying to capture the era or the journey where model has been trained or fine-tuned and now it's deployed and people are using it. How do you make sure that models are not getting brittle? Is there some way that we can constantly retrain our model? Is there some way we can use reinforcement learning to have human feedback in the loop and retrain our model for better performance or specific personalization need of the users? So that's where I'm really finding a lot of interesting projects as well. Yeah, so I think AI market in venture capital is exploding, I would say. I'm seeing great teams are able to raise phenomenal amount of funds and at a great valuation, but at the same time there are certain teams which are still struggling to raise the fund. And I think the main reason is that when it comes to any technology, any new technology, right, it's very hard to determine the GTM of that particular product. How important that product is for the consumers. Would they pay for it? If so, what is the workflow gonna look like for them, right? How easy would it be for the users to adapt these new solutions? Are they even easy to use? So I think that's one of the things that founders need to figure out and kind of ask themselves and do some consumer or their customer interviews as well, in order to maintain or kind of build more customer centric solutions, because exploring technology is one thing and making a breakthrough in research is one thing, but then creating and taking that research to consumers is another thing, right? And unless until your solutions or your products are not easy to use, it's very difficult for consumers to adapt them. I cannot expect my mom to kind of take chatbot, start working on it. But then there are good solutions as well, where it's as simple as typing something and getting your answer. So I feel like there's a lot of potential in enterprise area, where AI can be applied for doing mundane tasks, for remote process automation, or some sort of automation for everyday tasks that will take lot of work or effort out of a worker's roadmap. So that will make these companies more productive. So I feel those are the areas where we should be looking at for more investment. And I'm really excited about this chat. So we are going to talk about underserved population in general, and as you'll see that there are very few diversified founders, especially women founders in AI. As a matter of fact, there are very few women VCs as well in AI. So I feel that's one area where we can help women come forth, and not just women. I've seen very minority of African American founders getting a decent amount of funding. That's another category which needs to be recognized. And then Latinx founder, they struggle a lot in founding, so their company or getting the right resources. So I feel the talk is about the awareness, to make sure these founders know the resources they want to connect with, and then again raising an awareness among VCs to recognize such efforts and find techniques to connect with such founders and start exploring investment in those.